The first 30 kilometres of the marathon is supposed to be easy. It is after 30 kilometres you have to be prepared to go to war.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 93 of the WA Running Podcast. Today it's just Vici and I here in Perth, while Simon is over in Melbourne running the marathon. He's there with Narri and hopefully has recorded something of a snippet or a recap for us to talk through of their races on this morning. In local results this week, we've got a bunch to talk about. We've got we obviously didn't record an episode last week, so we've got the WA Coastal Running Festival at Lake Goollelal. We've got the Wally Cairns Pancake run, the Bibbulman Track FKT results, which came in last week, and of course the Perth Running Festival, which took place this morning. We will have Vicky's verbalisations and, of course, our usual weapons of warp. Vicky Richardson, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Chris. It's been a big day.
Sure has. Nice and warm, beautiful weather on an October morning. I am very, very sunburnt, and that became very obvious as I got home and hopped out of the shower and looked in the mirror, and my wife pointed out the fact that I looked like I was wearing a white singlet. So, yeah.
Oh no,
yeah, it's not good. But how was your day out there in the sun watching the race?
It was a warm one. When I got up this morning at 4:30 to 97% humidity and a high of 25 degrees, after what has been a cold, wet and pretty miserable winter that we've all been training through, and all the runners today have been training through, I thought, oh dear, it's going to be a tough day. But yeah, I had a great time. It was lovely to be on the bike. And yeah, great to see you out there doing your pacing job, which I'm sure we'll get onto in a bit more detail later on. But yeah, I saw runners with their shirts off, and I was thinking, oh, you're going to be so sunburned.
Yeah, I mean, people soaking up vitamin D, and I saw plenty of good tans out there, but unfortunately my complexion doesn't appreciate the sun, so I should have put some more sun cream on today. But we'll crack into the running festival a little later, I suppose. Well, let's go through our week, Vicky. How was your week of training this week?
A bit interrupted, unfortunately. I had, I think I was just fighting off a bit of a bug earlier in the week, and I ended up taking a couple of days off, Monday, Tuesday. I felt incredibly tired, really fatigued, like falling asleep on the sofa straight after work fatigue, which is really unlike me. So I thought maybe I need to be a bit sensible and not go and do any 5 times long hills or anything like that. That was on the plan. Yeah. So I didn't, and I gave myself a bit of a break, and I just ran on Wednesday, didn't feel too hot still, and then did my usual Thursday morning yellow run, which I shortened, and then I did a bit of an easy rolling hills on Friday. I started to feel a bit more normal, and then by Saturday felt a bit better and went to Wolves nice and early, did an easy 8k with them, and then I popped down to UWA park run to get in my 249th park run this week, which I was quite excited about. And did my 3x8 minutes at tempo with a 2-minute float there, which was my mini session for the week, really. And that went okay. And because there was so few people at parkrun, because of the Perth Running Festival on Sunday, I was 5th overall and first female, which was my highest position at parkrun for a really long time. So it wasn't a particularly good fast time. I was obviously doing a session. So, and then today I had a long run on the plan, but I was spectating the marathon instead. So I'd kind of planned to get out this afternoon, but I ended up not going out and just settling for a 32k. Very, very easy cycle around the river and around around the city.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful day to do so, wasn't it? I mean, and maybe, you know, if you were fighting off the bug earlier in the week, it makes sense to potentially have a bit of a lighter week in the end.
Yeah, I felt like it was a bit of active recovery, and after listening to lots of chat on Easy Double in the last couple of weeks about cross training and how it's so good for active recovery, which I obviously know, but I don't tend to do it because I just default to running when I can run. I thought, no, you know what? I'm gonna settle for this. So, that was it. How about you? How was yours?
Good. I kind of front loaded my week this week so that I could have a rest day on Saturday, like yesterday before today's run. So I did a 8x800 on Tuesday, which was good. Managed to squeeze out some good repetitions there along my local segment that basically runs the length of Melville Beach Parade here in kind of Applecross. And I had a bit of a lighter session Thursday. Simon was heading off the next morning, so I caught him and Ash Ritson down at the Narrows. We did 3x3 minutes around. So we warmed up on the way to Optus Stadium, did 3x3 minutes around the stadium, and then made our way back for a total of, I think, 14K. So that was kind of a nice lighter Thursday session leading into this week and this weekend. And then, today was just a nice Sunday long run with Ordwin. So, we met out at, because last year I got stuck out at, I got stuck in the car park at Crown and, struggled to get back out, and took me about an hour and a half to get out of the car park last year. So this year, Audun and I planned ahead and we parked across the other side of Great Eastern Highway. So we had about a 2.5K walk to get to the start line. So by the time I'd got there, I wasn't quite ready I hadn't really warmed up by the time we got to the start line. So I was a little bit concerned, but it was a nice long run and had a lot of fun, met a bunch of new people and got to see a lot of people kind of reach their goals and which is, I guess, the really satisfying thing about being a pacer for a marathon.
Yeah. What happened last year? The course was still closed. Was that why you?
So I think that because there's that parking that's on the Great Eastern Highway side. I think one lane was closed or something along those lines, and so it was very difficult. Everybody was leaving. To be honest, Simon and I were pacing the 4-hour 45 group, so we were there until quite late, and so a lot of the people that had stuck around after their race were then leaving too. So it was just probably the worst possible time to leave Crown, unfortunately, last year. But I managed to sneak out this year quite quickly, despite the walk, and have spent the afternoon on a kayak, so that's been fun.
Oh no. No. Well, I mean, was it nice? Was that good? Was that a good active recovery after your 3-hour 15 marathon?
Yeah, it was nice and chill, pretty shallow water, and not a lot of wind about. So it was it was nice, quiet afternoon.
Oh, very nice. That does sound lovely. As long as you've got the skin covered up.
Yeah, well, I had one of those nice fishing T-shirts that you see with the big giant fish printed on them. So that kept my arms out of the sun, and a nice hoodie on. So
great.
Yeah. Stayed nice and sun smart this afternoon at least.
Sounds like a good
right,
day.
Well, let's we'll get into more depth of the running festival later. I'll quickly smash through some results from a couple of weeks back. So we had, as we said earlier, we had the WA Coastal Running Festival at Lake Goollelal. That was the 5th of October out at Kingsley there. It's the inaugural event, so it looked like it really went really, really well from the social side of things. Positive feedback on the organisation and the volunteers from those who ran it. I think it's a 5K loop around the lake. So there was basically a 5K, a 10K and a 15K. The male 5K was won by Dean Scroza in 1747, followed by David Lee in 1851, and then Mark Strickland in 2013. The female 5K was won by Ava Brennan in 1946, followed by Regan Hanks in 2127, and then Jill Helm in 2803. The women's 10K was won by Kate Fairwell in 42.51, followed by Audrey Bingham in 48.22, and then Natalie Brooks coming in third in 49.10. The male 10K was won by Blair Jarvis in 36.11, followed by Barry Colgan in 38.14, and then Nicholas Taylor in 44.13. 2:13. So a fairly big gap between second and third there. The women's 15K was won by Alicia Bruce in 109.16, followed by Lisa Sherlock in 110.11, and then Joe Mason coming in third in 112.17. The male 15K was won by listener Sam Tennant in 59.06, followed by Mitch Fox in 59.59, which is a nice number to look at, and then Joel Corbett in 101. There was also a couple of relays there, but they're partner relays, so they've only got one name. Oh, no, they're two surnames. Okay, so we had Martin Pierce team take out the 30K partner relay in 2:08.35, and then the 20K partner relay was taken out by Hibble and Hawkins, which is a great couple of names.
I liked pulling these results together. I was like McIntyre and McIntyre. So, yeah, it sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like a couple, like lawyers or a panel beater or something.
Yeah. I was looking at this event because I hadn't seen much about it before it happened, and so I did a little bit of research and thought it was worth mentioning that it is the inaugural event of the Lake Goollelal WA Coastal Running Festival, and some really positive feedback on their Facebook page. I noticed
awesome
on the vibes, the organisation, the volunteers. I saw that I think the race organiser, from what I could see, was a guy called Sean McCrory, and I think it's shout out to Sean for adding another event to the WA running calendar and giving this a crack. And it looks like some interesting, like some good range of distances, nice little relays in there as well. It looks like it was a well attended and supported event. So good to see it hopefully go from strength to strength in the coming years. Yeah,
hope so. That's good. All right, well, we also had the Wally Cairns Pancake Run on the 5th of October up in Kings Park. This was run in support of MND, so there was a bit of fundraising going on there. There's a 5K, a 10K, and a 15K again. Funnily enough, two of the same distances, or two events with the same distances on the same day, which is crazy. Now, there's a really good showing there from the Team Tina crew as part of the MNDWA, as the charity partner for the event. This is an event that Todd would have absolutely frothed over because of the challenging sand sections and the Green Mile climb. Fortunately, this year, rain had kept the sand quite compact, which made it a little bit easier, or still pretty hard running on sand regardless.
I would say it was still hard. I did it.
Yeah.
And it was hard. I don't know I think Simon must have put that note in, and I was like, 3 laps of that was plenty for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Those little tracks are hard going at times. The 5K women's was won by Emily Murray in 22.53, followed by Rebecca De Cinque in 24.03, and then I think Simon made a call out to Savannah Rayner last week on the podcast at the end of the episode in 24.07. The male 5K was won by Mitchell Hobbs in 19.26, followed by Thomas Berg in 19.27 and Oliver Nucky in 19.52. Those guys are all quite young, looking at those age groups. The 10K females was won by the one and only Tina Ingram in 47.32, followed by Beth Sleet in 49.45, and then Sarah Dyer in 50.26. 10K male was won by Cathal de Foyt in 38.09, followed by Maxime Morris in 40.31, followed by Adam Pryor coming in third in 40.34. Women's 15K was won by Laura Joyce in 1:13.23, followed by Anna Massey in 1:16.30, and finally in Nancy Shaw 1:17.06. Men's race was won by Sotomayor Hara in 56.37, followed by Logan Calder in 1 hour 16, and then Piero Mararo in 1 hour 35. Now, I think Soto claimed that he might have broken the course record for this one, but I think I saw a screenshot of a run that Jerry Hill had done out here back in 2014 that was about 5 minutes quicker than the one that Soto had run. So maybe not quite as fast as Soto was hoping, but nonetheless, a great run from him. Now, I guess other big news we had coming in last week, or following on from our last episode, was the Bibbulman FKT that was taking place over the course of about 8 or 9 days. starting on the 24th and the 26th of September, with Aaron Young and Mackenzie Burgoyne, respectively. Now, Aaron came in first, obviously, starting 2 days earlier. He came in 9 days, 22 hours and 3 minutes, and has had that time ratified by the fastest known time, or .com. Mackenzie Burgoyne then came in a day and a half later in 8 days, 22 hours and 44 minutes. So absolutely obliterating. No, have I written that right?
I think Aaron's was
9 days, 3 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. 3 hours. So we're doing Aaron out of.
We're doing him
18 hours.
Yep. Sorry, Aaron. No, I've absolutely cocked that one up. No, so Aaron came in 9 days, 3 hours, and then a day or so later, Macca came in 8 days, 22 hours and 44 minutes. Now, I think that is quite a phenomenal effort. I think Macca obviously had the advantage of coming in second to know where Aaron had finished and what he needed to do then to kind of take that time. So roughly, what are we talking, 5 hours difference? But unfortunately, for whatever reason, there looks to have been some discrepancies in the way Macca had applied, certain aspects of his attempt with the FKT official. So I think that's being resolved at the moment, but at this point in time, his time has not been ratified. So hopefully that gets resolved, because I'm sure that even though Aaron had run the race a couple of days before, he would certainly be supportive of Macca getting that time ratified for whatever reason, because it regardless, these two guys putting it all on the line, kind of so close to each other, was a really fun thing to follow along with, day by day, getting updates on socials. Well, I guess what I did notice, and I'm not sure if you noticed this, Vic, was Aaron looked like the coolest customer the entire time. He had these really neat button-up shirts on, so looking quite like a cool customer. He looked like a bit trendy. Had his clear sunnies on, and Macca looked like he was absolutely in the wars.
Yeah. I think. Just echoing what you just said. We're talking about 9 days of effort, of running, of 100 Ks a day for both of these guys. So regardless of what happens with Macca's attempt, it's just an incredible effort. I agree with you. I thought Aaron looked, I don't know whether it was just for Instagram, but he looked super cool. And I'm sure he wasn't like this all the time, but he looked very chilled out, and kind of when he spoke, he was like, everything hurts a bit, and but it would. And Macca looked like he went through a lot, and he had quite a lot of I suppose if you were riding a bike, mechanicals like head torch issues and various different issues. I know there was calls put out for physio later on in the time he was out there. Regardless, awesome job, but to put yourself in that pain cave like Macca was for as long as he was, and to keep moving forward, just hats off to both of them. Yes, it's definitely a mental game, as much as it is a physical one.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and it's 9 days of running, but it's months and maybe sometimes years of planning that goes into these things. So, congratulations to both of them for getting it done. I mean, it's just awesome. And I guess if anyone wants to hear the full details of Macca's run, they should probably head over to Crap and listen to the episode they did in the week with Shannon and Macca, talking for I think over 2 hours about that experience. So it's definitely worth a listen. I'd go and check it out. All right, well, let's get on to the marquee event of the year, really, outside of HBF Half Marathon.
I was going to say, let's not call it that.
At least on the maybe the WA Marathon Club running calendar, this is probably they're not in total control of it at the moment, but maybe, and that is probably probably to its detriment. But the Perth Running Festival was held today down at Burswood, starting and finishing at Optum Stadium, unless you were running the 10K, in which case you were starting at Langley Park at 9:40 a.m. in the morning in the burning heat.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Do you want to quickly take us through the results there, Vicky, before we get talking about or shit talking about the running festival?
Yeah, absolutely. I reckon we could call it the marquee event of the second half of the year.
Yeah,
let's call it that for now.
Very diplomatic.
But HBF still wins. Yes, I'm going to try and do these results justice. So men's marathon, we had first place was Paul in A&A from Kenya in 2 hours 24 minutes. Second place, our road to Kwinana and state champion Matt Smith in 2 hours 27. Matt looked pretty cool out there, as he always does. I'm not sure whether he felt it, but he certainly looked it from where I was standing. And then third place was Carlos Aquino in 2 hours and 31 minutes. For the women's marathon, we had Keelan Waithira, 6th overall, also from Kenya in 2 hours 38 minutes. Second place was Abigail Nordberg in 9th overall in 2 hours and 42 minutes. Abigail's from New South Wales, and we did some digging and found that she was 10th at Sydney 6 weeks ago, so pretty good backing that up. And then third place was Jane Fardell, 23rd overall, also from New South Wales in 2 hours and 49 minutes, and she won the Cairns Marathon back in July. So yeah, well done to those guys. We'll all just call out the WA state champs, the females. Kirsten Burst was the state champ in the end after a pretty interesting race, I think, at the top end, at the pointy end. So Kirsten was finished in 2 hours and 55 minutes. Astrid Roberts came in 2 hours 56, and Lauren French in 2 hours 57. So really just like a minute separating each of them. It did go backwards and forwards a bit, and I know, Chris, you were probably a little bit more aware of that than I was, actually. I saw Astrid out in front, and then I saw Kirsten and Loz a bit further back, and then I didn't actually catch them later on in the race, and I probably missed some of that switching backwards and forwards that I think you were aware of.
Yeah, it looked like Astrid and Kirsten and Loz actually traded places a few times over the course of the first kind of 35 Ks. Astrid was pretty firmly at the front for most of it from what I saw, but I think Kirsten was at one point had dropped right back, and Loz was ahead, and then all of a sudden, Kirsten had overtaken Lauren, and then I didn't see this happen, but I from what I heard, basically Kirsten overtook Astrid in the final couple of kilometres. So I think Astrid had the legs, like she had the speed, but potentially hadn't had the prep that she probably wanted going into this to sustain the pace for the full distance. So Kirsten obviously took advantage of that and snagged a state marathon championship. So nothing to balk at there.
No, amazing run from all three of them. Great times.
Mm-hmm.
So in the half marathon, we had the men. So Tim Vincent, Queensland local and just back from Worlds in Tokyo, came in 1 hour and 5 minutes. And when I say this name, Tim Vincent, I always think Blue Peter presenter for anyone who's British. I don't think it's the same guy. Second place was Andy Smith in 1 hour and 10 minutes, so 5 minutes behind. And then third place was Josh Van Zeeland, who also came in 1 hour, 10 minutes and 41 seconds, so just a matter of seconds between those guys. And we are aware from our research that Josh is a High Rocks guy, and recently came third in the High Rocks or the Greek Rap Duros World Champs, whichever you want to look out when you spell correct. It changes it. In the women's half marathon, as predicted actually by Kat on our earlier episode, Rebecca Bolster was the first female in 1 hour and 19 minutes and 31 seconds. Benny Astridge was second in 1 hour 24 minutes and 1 second. Not a name that I'm familiar with.
No, not you, sure. Chris? No, couldn't.
And third was our very own Road to Kwinana and the Queen of Kwinana, Kat Watt, in 1 hour and 24 minutes and 14 seconds. So just a few seconds behind them. So well done to Kat. Great to have you back on the streets of Perth, running in, I think probably conditions that you've perhaps become accustomed to in Hawaii with the humidity this morning, and taking out a podium spot. So, yeah, well done to you. Then we had the streamer 10K. The men's was taken out by Dan Canella in 30 minutes flat. Max Shervington was second in 31 minutes and 2 seconds. And Jonah Hanikari was third in 31 minutes and 48 seconds. For the females in the 10K, we had Rachel McCormack in 35 minutes and 23 seconds. Amy Buckingham in second in 36 minutes and 5 seconds. And then Lauren Ramsden in third in 37 minutes and 17 seconds. And then last but not least, we had the Burswood 4K dash, Burswood Park 4K dash, should I say? Sorry, I'm just trying to do my thing and call out the sponsors, you know. The men's, it was Joshua Nivort. Sorry, I'm terrible with names. In 11 minutes and 54 seconds, crazy fast. Second was Mark Midgley in 12 minutes and 15 seconds, and Theodore Kenworthy Gruen was third in 12 minutes and 37 seconds. In the women's, we had Leah Allen in 13 minutes and 47 seconds in first place. Angie Ross was second in 14 minutes and 4 seconds, and Scarlett White was third in 14 minutes and 13 seconds. So yeah, now I've butchered some names. Well done to all of those winners. It was a great day for a marathon, a warm day, but great for spectators at least. Yeah, recap of the event time. Chris, do you want to give us your view? Because you were obviously, you were on course to pacing. I was on the sidelines cycling and trying not to get arrested. So yeah. What were your thoughts? What was your experience?
Yeah, no, I would certainly love to give my thoughts. Now, this is a problem that I experienced last year, actually, and I think Matt Maguire might have made the same complaints about it 2 years ago. So was the pacing. So when you're pacing and you're trying to maintain or aim for a time in a marathon, it is an extremely hard thing to do. So managing, you can rely on your watch, but your watch, you're going through a tunnel at one point, so you lose GPS. I think Kat said she lost a kilometre in her race because of the GPS there. So, if I was to lose a kilometre, I wouldn't know where I was. The course markers are just absent, all through the course. Like, I think it was a 5K. I saw a 5K. Somebody in the group told me they saw a half one. I didn't see it. I saw one for 35K and maybe 25, and 40. So not often enough to really understand where I was sitting at in the scheme of the race. Granted, that really only affects, 2 paces for each of the pace groups, right? So maybe you could say that it doesn't have a big impact, but even if you're manually lapping your watch and you're running, you and you're doing it that way, well then, it does have a wider impact. So that is a really simple thing to fix, and it's not that cannot be considered something that they can't say like, oh, it's not within the budget. I mean, it's a handful of signs that they have to print up and put a brick next to. It's not a big deal. I did see basically between 30 and 30K and the finish, they ran out of water in spots. So there was electrolytes at the tables, but there was no water anymore. So if you were looking to cool down, particularly if you're running, anything longer than a 3 hour and 15-minute marathon, if you were looking to cool down in those final 12 kilometres, well, you had to pour electrolytes on your head, not plain water. So that was pretty disappointing to see. That hadn't been a problem in past, but yeah, today that was a serious problem.
And I'll say on that point. So I was cycling back from breakfast after watching I think we watched about 4 hours on the marathon come in at the finish line, and we cycled back down the marathon course, stopped for 40 minutes or so to have something to eat, and then we carried on back to where we parked at UWA. And so I was cycling down Riverside Drive and then down Mount Spey Road, but it was about 11, just after 11, and there were people still headed out at that time. So there were, obviously the cut-off time I think is 7 hours. So there's, of course, there's people that are going to be out there that long. But I was watching those people, and the heat was so warm. And to think that obviously I couldn't see whether there was water or not at those spots, but they were doing it tough. Obviously they were doing it tough. And I just think it takes a lot to keep going. And then those people should be really so pleased with themselves for getting it done. And for still smiling when I shouted out to them, they were still smiling and saying thank you and, giving me a bit of a cheer back. And I hope there was some sort of fluids out there for them, given that they were out there for 6 hours plus and having a long day.
For sure. I will correct that. I did see a drink station at Madagarrett Bridge. So it was basically a kilometre from the finish. There was a drink station there with water, but between there and at the end of Mount Spey Road, like Forest Hall, there wasn't any water in sight. So what else did I see today that bothered me? People, and this is not a criticism of the event, actually, this is just a criticism of people in general, using a gel and then just throwing it on the floor and not seeking out a bin. Like literally, if you try to throw it in the bin and you miss at the drink station, well, so be it. But like if you're, just gone through a drink station, you're okay from it, and then you're just throwing your trash on the side of the road, well then, that's pretty awful to see. And that seems to be a common problem. I've seen it at every race that I've done. So, tough stuff.
I just don't know why it's so hard to put it in your pocket.
That's what I mean. Like my pockets were filled with empty Vicks gels. So it's not that hard. And then I guess other things from a race perspective, I think I can't criticize the finish shoot. Like you come through the finish, and there's water there, there's bananas, there's food. You're reasonably well taken care of there. It's just I think those exposed sections of the course really need to be looked at really really hard because it is October and we are in Perth and. Yes, it's only the forecast is only for 23 degrees or 25 degrees, but you have to think about the most vulnerable people in this race, and not necessarily the top 10 or 30% or whatever it is that they might be considering when they're. If you've got people running, like I said, or like you were saying, there's people out there running up to a 7-hour marathon, like. Those people are extremely vulnerable on the freeway in the blazing heat. Yeah. And it's not just the sun. It like Raf pointed out to us today. Like it's like the radiation coming off the road. Like it's absolutely cooks you. And and Mount Spey Road's not a whole lot better, to be honest. So I think those kinds of things really need to be looked at. And if this course I think there are some changes to go on next year in terms of like who's running this in conjunction with the marathon club. So whoever is in charge of the course setup or the course itself probably needs to reconsider those sections of the course because they are so exposed. It's either that or you're reducing the cutoff time right down to like 4.5 hours because, which is not inclusive, obviously, and I wouldn't want that to be the case. Or it means that you're shifting the time of year at which this race is run because doing it in October, the sun's up at 5:30. It's just not feasible anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I think. Did you do Sydney last year, Chris?
I did Sydney last year.
You did, yeah. So Sydney, is it Anzac Road, Anzac Parade, the road that goes up? So it's a bit. I felt like it's kind of similar in that it's a long, big road that goes out a really long way and then comes back on itself. But the difference is there are high buildings either side of that road, particularly on the way back in. I think I said when I did my kind of recap of Sydney that I was cold for a really long time because I felt like I was constantly in the shade. Obviously, it's a different time of year. It's a bit earlier. It was a cool day this year for Sydney. Albeit bright, but the difference with that freeway is there is literally no shade whatsoever, and I felt that when I was out there spectating because I was spent probably an hour and a half on the freeway, and you are just exposed to the blazing sun the whole time, and there's sun coming back up off the road as well. It's pretty desolate out there. I like the fact that they closed that road off. I think it's a great thing to close the road. I don't know, you can't do anything about the fact there's no buildings, but I don't know if there's a better route that it could go. So it'll be interesting to see whether they do review the course next year.
They obviously want to make it flat and fast, and I appreciate that. Yeah. So running along the river makes a whole lot of sense, but I mean, there are a lot of other parts of our city, and Sydney has shown that the fact that you don't have to have a flat marathon in order to produce
Absolutely
a really high quality marathon. So,
Agree.
Why do we have to have a flat, fast one? Why can't we just have one that actually showcases our city? Aspects of it that are more exciting than the Kwinana Freeway or Mounts Bay Road. Like we've got Kings Park up the hill. Yes, you have to run up the hill, but for Christ's sake, like you get to run in the shade for at least 6 kilometres if you're doing a loop around Kings Park. And, you could be running through Northbridge or Leederville or any place where you've got buildings either side, much like that Anzac Parade section of Sydney. So you would be in the shade for significant portions of the race if we were to do something like that. I appreciate like road closures are extremely expensive. It's really hard to kind of shut a city down for like 8 hours, but there has to be another way.
Yeah. I think the other thing that does as well, if there was a way to get it going through suburbs, that you then get so much more support on the streets because going down a freeway is never going to get... I mean, actually, I was surprised at how many people were out there. I felt like it was busier than I did it last year, and I felt like it was busier than it was last year. It felt really nice and well supported for some of the way. Definitely not all of the way because there's a point at which it's hard for people to get any further. So I don't know about what you felt about that, but if you were to take it through Northbridge or Leederville or down like through South Perth, for example, or any of those suburbs that are kind of adjacent to the city, you'd immediately get people coming outside of their houses and being engaged with it, which I think would make for such a great atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at Bunbury Marathon, right? That has... that runs through some of the suburbs. You get to run along the water and along the coffee strip, and so you've got people passively supporting the marathon who aren't even don't have any connection to it. So that alone adds atmosphere. You've got people out the front of their house playing guitar, or a guy shooting you with a hose. Like there's lots of things like that. The small moments that happen in those kinds of races where that actually kind of changes the character of the race for the better. And I would be highly supportive of something that did run through the suburbs, even if it's through the bloody city. The City to Surf runs through the city. HBF runs through the city. Like there are opportunities there that there's already like a precedence that it can be done. It's just, and the City to Surf used to have a marathon, so there are other ways to do this that don't involve running on Kwinana Freeway.
Quite as far as you do even, and in both directions. It's the Graham Farmer as well that goes out on, doesn't it, first, and then you kind of come back. So
that's true. You've got Graham Farmer too.
On freeway. Yeah,
I didn't even mention that. Yeah, that's. But fortunately, at that point in time, for me at least, it was early enough in the morning that it didn't have a larger impact on me. But there would have been people who, that you're ending up with really 20 kilometers on a freeway. So that's rough stuff. I'll move on from the weather and the freeway. Was there some observations that you made, Vicky, from the sidelines that like you said, the supporters in parts were better this year, and maybe that's got to do with the fact that there are more runners this year than there have been in past years. But what do you think was good and bad about spectating?
So, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great day for me to be out there cheering everyone on. I think that there was definitely a couple more. It seemed like to me, because I did it last year as a participant, it seemed like there were a few more like vibe zones or whatever you want to call them this year. The Lululemon one was one that stuck out to me. And it just felt really good. Like, it felt like it was quite a really good atmosphere going through there. I was like, I think I'm just going to slow down and cycle a bit slower to soak this up a bit. Because I went past probably 6 times in the end, because I was kind of out and back. And I did think there were a few more spectators on the freeway that probably to your point, they are out there supporting their loved ones, friends and family. But they seemed like there was a particular, and I'm talking about a handful of people here and there, but there was a couple of guys and girls, and they were just cheering for every single person that came past, like really into it. They weren't just waiting for their person. They were, and I liked that. I thought that was really nice. And it made me feel good that we were, as a, perhaps the non-runners in Perth, we were getting behind this event.
Yes, exactly.
Which seemed nice. So I don't know whether it felt like that to you, but that was what it felt like to me in parts. The other thing that I observed from the bike, which I hadn't noticed last year because I wouldn't have done because I was running it, was it's quite complex, and it's an awful lot for them to manage. I think that 2 different event start locations with a massive gap in between those event start times as well. With the 10K, the marathon was finishing, so we were heading towards the marathon, the stadium we were just outside of 3 hours. And the DJ and the MC for the 10K at Langley Park was only just starting up at that point, and I was like, gosh, are we with that early? Yeah, we are, because the marathon started at 6 and they don't start until 9:40, by which time obviously it was boiling hot as well. But they have no choice but to do that, I guess, because of the roads that they need to use for the 10K. And then when we went over the other side of the river, I realised that then and anyone who's done both distances would know this, but I didn't clock it until today. The half is running around the other side of the river, so there's a lot of logistics there to manage, and I just wonder whether there's like you say, maybe a simpler way to do it with the different distances that use the majority of the same course, but can go through a maybe more contained, like sort of inner suburbs route or something. I don't know, but that was what struck me. I was like, wow, they've got people everywhere doing all sorts of things, and it's very confusing for the people navigating the roads and where they're sending people and where the traffic's going and not going, and so seemed like a lot. But I mean, overall, I thought from what I saw, people seemed like they were having a great time. Obviously, there's always going to be highs and lows in a marathon, and I'm sure, or in any distance, whatever distance people took part in. All the feedback I've heard throughout the day has been pretty positive from those that experienced it. I think you've put a note in here about prize money, so I don't know whether you were going to mention that, but I think I know what you're going to say there, that there's, with a big prize pool, it brings in people from outside of Australia potentially that come in and, run the race and run the time and get the place, but then the money goes, and maybe it would be nice to see it go into some of our own domestic athletes potentially.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I know Ryan and Dean and Owen were talking about this last week, but it would be nice to see I'm all for people being brought in to run this race. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but we should at least know who it is, before the race starts.
Yeah.
And so I had no idea going into this who these people were. Simon and I tried to get in touch with some people at the Perth Running Festival to try and establish who they might be in the lead up to this race, but we found that extremely difficult. That was a pretty difficult thing to achieve, and it never eventuated. So it goes to show that it was kind of not really worth our time. And so when you see people turn up to the start line and you know straight away that this person's capable of running quicker than anybody else here, and they're going to walk away with $10,000 at the end of the day, I mean, that's pretty rough for people like Smithy, Carlos. We've got Abigail and Jane who are from New South Wales, so they've come from interstate.
Yeah.
So then that means that all of the WA reps missed out on prize money on this occasion, which is unfortunate. But we're talking about like 10,000 for first, 5,000 for second, and I think it's 2,000 for third. So that's nothing. That's not nothing. That's actually quite a lot of money.
And
absolutely. I would think that most people wouldn't dream of winning that much money in a local race here in Perth. And if the event is becoming bigger, and it's now got 4,500 people running the marathon compared to what I think they had about 1,300 2 years ago when I ran it in 2023. So it's tripled in size, and the prize money is reflecting that to some degree. Either they pay further down the list, or to be able to facilitate payment to people who are also kind of finishing down to 8th or something, which often happens at other marathons, around the world, or they just they advertise who these people are so that we can form a connection with them and try and engage with them. And that way it gives someone like Smithy an opportunity to say, hey, look, this guy's his PB might be 220 or 219 or whatever it might be. Okay, I think I can hold on to this guy on the weekend and I can have a crack and try and win this thing. And Smithy gave it everything to win today. I think he might have had some stomach troubles. So maybe that pot of cookies and cream connoisseur that he was bragging about last night might have come back to haunt him, but he still put everything on the line out there today to try and catch this guy, and was only 3 minutes behind in the end. So and he hasn't walked away with nothing. And people like Kirsten, she hasn't won any prize money out of this, so it would have been nice to see Kirsten or Astrid or Loz take away some money too. So that's pretty unfortunate. And like that prize money is also in the half. There's decent prize money too, and even the 10, and I think I'm not sure if the 4 had prize money, but the 10 certainly did. So that's why we are seeing athletes like Tim Vincent come over from the eastern states to have a crack at these things. That's kind of my prize money rant, really, Vicky.
I agree with you. And I think just about your point on advertising the athletes as well, the other part of that is actually the spectators could then support them better if we knew who they were.
Exactly.
You know, if I'd have known their names, I would have shouted their names, and I'm sure that others would have as well. And that is something that's seen at other bigger races around the country and around the world. So if they're going to come over, and if they want to bring them over and to do it, then make a big song and dance about them, and let's get behind them. You know,
100%.
We want them to,
It'll only grow the event, and it'll mean that we can bring more sponsors in, and there can be more prize money, and then we can pay down to 8th or 10th or whatever it might be. Interesting to see how that kind of carries forth in the next few years. I wanted to quickly say, because I haven't watched it myself, but they did have a live stream on for each of the events today. So on streamer, so you could actually watch the race. And I think you mentioned you saw someone on a bike with a camera following them. So I'm just looking at a feed right now of the half marathon from this morning, and there's Tim Vincent running at the front, and there is a bike with a camera following him. I can't hear the commentary because I'm talking to you, so I don't know what it was like, but I'd be interested to hear if there were any listeners that weren't at the race today spectating, if they did watch the stream, what was it like? Because if it was anything like the Melbourne Marathon coverage that I watched this morning before the race, well, then that's fantastic, because that Melbourne Marathon coverage was really good. They had a team from SEN on there to kind of cover and commentate at least what I saw of the marathon before when it was racing, and they were following both the men and women's pack quite well. But I'd be interested to know from people what they thought of this streamer coverage.
I would too. I haven't seen it, but I did see some snippets of it on the big screen outside of the stadium. So they were showing clips from streamer interchanging with the finish line and people finishing, and then interchanging with results that they were pulling up on the screen, which you absolutely could not read.
Right.
So I thought that was a great idea to have results showing on the screen if they were big enough to see your name on there, which they weren't. Absolutely. So, which would be a very easy fix.
Yes.
So there was a bit of that, but I couldn't really tell from the snippets that I saw what the quality was like. It was interesting. It was, like I said, it was great to spectate. I think the only other thing I would add is there was probably there was maybe a bit of confusion with some of the people out there, probably volunteers doing the, keeping spectators in check and or not. Were like, it's fine to ride your bike up the freeway, crack on. And then so off we pedalled, and then within minutes there was a police on a bike going, "Get off the freeway," which I think happened to a few people that as well, Chris.
Including Raph and Matt. So it was interesting.
Yeah,
I did hear a rumor from a random person today that Raph had been arrested, which was initially quite shocking and funny, but I don't think that was the case. He wasn't arrested. He was just given a bit of a reprimand, a bit like yourself.
Yeah. And I was like, but that guy said we could. It's okay. And then I realised I was trying to argue with a cop on a bike. So, probably my motorbike. So I probably wasn't going to get very far. But, so we moved. We clambered over the railings on the freeway. But, it was for the good of the participants, We were there with our cowbells in full support.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do it from the sidelines instead.
No. I mean, that support was very much appreciated, Vicky, every time I saw you. So you could hear that cowbell a mile away.
There you are. I've got such a sore wrist.
Very good. I don't know. I reckon that's all of the gripes that I have in my head at the moment. I am looking forward to seeing what comes of this next year. I hope they change the time of year if they can. Being on the same day as Melbourne is crazy. I was talking to Vlad after the race today for about 20 or 30 minutes, and we were just talking about Tim Vincent. And he was saying that, someone like Fraser Darcy might have come over and run the marathon, because Fraser seems to run every marathon that he can get a bit of prize money at in Australia. But unfortunately, Melbourne was the bigger paying one today. Easier for him to stick around there and do that. But so like I think even if it's changed like a handful of weeks, I appreciate that not everybody's going to back up marathons from 3 weeks ago, but there will be Australian kind of sub-elite and elite marathoners who will go out and try and do the circuit to a degree to try and pick up money. So it would be absolutely be worthwhile for the running festival to change the date, in between Sydney and Melbourne or something like that, just to,
I think the reason why it has to be this late is because of AFL and the potential, the need to keep the stadium free for or there was rugby on last week as well. Wasn't there something else on at the stadium last week? So I guess they have to work around those events that are going to get in first to the stadium.
I guess the question is then, do we have to have the stadium involved?
Yeah.
Because, we've got these giant grass parklands that sit on the rivers that don't do anything, like Langley Park, Sir James Mitchell Park on the south side of the river. You could host massive events at these places and you could fit tens of thousands of people. And like the atmosphere going into that stadium, let's be honest, isn't the best. Like it's not the MCG. I was watching the stream just then of Tim Vincent coming across the finish line in the half marathon, and looking at the camera view, you're looking down and there's probably 60 people in the stands while this guy's coming through in the half. It's like, what are we looking at? Why does it have to be here?
I do agree with you on that. Having run 2 events, one in the UK, the Reading Half Marathon, which finishes in the Majestic Stadium, or it used to, and also Melbourne Marathon, and the finish line. I mean, I remember doing Reading Half a couple of times, and the roar from that stadium before you even get into it is incredible. Like it's like full, and you run a lap. Now, I'm sure there are lots of reasons why Optus Stadium they aren't allowed to use much of the grass. I don't know what the reason is, but I remember being in and out so quickly that I could barely blink last year. Whereas obviously Melbourne's different as well. The MCG, you're in there and you run all the way around and you're on a carpet and you're following that. It just felt really special when I did that and finished in there. I agree. I think you could create that atmosphere in one of the bigger areas around the river for sure. With a bit of stadium seating either side, you could definitely create an awesome finish line if you put a bit of thought into it. So it'll be interesting to see whether they can pull something out of the bag and make it a bit more, shake things up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's how about we just change the speed a little bit? We'll make it more positive. So we've been going for 58 minutes and we've been talking pretty negatively for the last 20. So I think let's make a few mentions of people that we saw out in the course today. Did you want to get us started?
Yeah, I will. So our Road to Kwinana training series, guys, we've already mentioned Kat and Matt, who podium in their respective events. But big shout out to Denzel. Denzel ran 2:52 for a 6-minute PB, was 30th overall and second in his age group. And honestly looked like a joy. And I know he wouldn't say this. I think he said he was hurting on the inside, but every time I saw him, he was a massive smile. He was like giving me like thumbs up, like high fives, just so he looked like he'd really got a spring in his step and looked like he got himself together. So well done, Denzel. Nita, in the half marathon, unfortunately I didn't see Nita out on the course, but she, I think she was running this as a training run for Singapore Marathon later in the year, and she ran 1:55 for a 2-minute PB. So I don't know whether she ended up doing a session within that or whether she just kind of did a bit of a full send, but she had a great run by the looks of it, and a PB. So great runs all round from the Road to Kwinana training series, guys. I did chat to Nita. She did do her workout, so she did.
She successfully executed that, which is I'm sure her coach is very happy about. But what I thought was really good, and again, I spoke to Vlad about this after the race, was how good those singlets looked on the course.
They did.
Vlad really did a number on those. I think a few people said, you can't actually read the difference between the green and the pink, but I think once you had a bit of sweat on it, it became a lot more legible. So
the pink really stood out. I thought it was good. It was a good colour. Yeah,
I loved it. I'm pretty jealous that I didn't get one, to be honest. So
me too.
Have to maybe organise a wider spread next time we do this.
Yeah. So I'll call out a few others, and I'll rattle through some of these guys and girls. I wanted to shout out Jules McNish. Jules has had a long road back from tearing her hamstrings last year, and she's also been quite unwell in the last week and a half. And she ran 3:07 today. She looked so happy and so smiley all the way. Again, she'd probably tell you otherwise as well, but she was super cheery when I saw her and looking absolutely awesome. Aptly named Mama T, or Tina, we've already mentioned, but I wanted to shout her out as well, because it was definitely an emotional run from Tina after losing Todd, her husband, 4 months ago, I think to the day. And she also tore her Achilles a few months before that. So she's had a road back from injury and a very emotional journey, but just looked incredible. Honestly, I was like, I said to her, if you could have heard my commentary on what you look like, I was just loving watching her. She just looked so together, and she looked so strong. Finished in 3:11. So yeah, great run from Tina. Mark Smith, who is a fellow Wolf, he is on his week number 30 of his last person standing event competition, and cruised into a 3-hour 19-minute marathon today, and that last person standing competition means that he ran 29k as a long run yesterday, and last week, and this week he will need to do a 31 kilometre long run. That's right, isn't it? So he can't back off between marathons, is what I'm saying, and he did Sydney as well a few weeks ago. So great job, Mark. I wanted to call out a good friend of mine, Gillian Power, as well, who's coached by Kat. She's had a really interrupted build to the Perth Marathon. She had COVID a few weeks ago. She ran 3:24, but she receives my new award that I have decided we're going to have, which is Best Dressed, because she looked awesome in her blue get-up, her Runners Connected Cats team singlet and her pink sunnies, nice. and just looked super together every time I saw her as well. And then I'll shout out Team Crap. So Shannon did her debut marathon today. 4:25, I think, was her time. Mm-hmm. And celebrating her 30th birthday, I think, this week as well. And, just having come off the back of being support crew for Macca. So a massive few weeks for Shannon, and an awesome debut marathon today. And also Hayden ran in Perth, I think the first time he's run in his hometown, a marathon that is. So 5 hours 40 for Hayden to get that done. And I think that's 3 marathons this year so far for him. So
wow. I might sorry, quickly, Vicky, I might just give Shannon a word of warning on, she's got married this year. She's turning 30, and she's just run her first marathon. It's all downhill from here.
Oh, no, definitely not. So there's so much more uphill to go.
No, I'm just joking. But, once you do one marathon and you start that slippery slide in your 30s, at least from my experience, it becomes a bit of an addiction. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Shannon's got cooking next.
So I feel like she might be pulling out an FKT attempt next.
Yeah.
After last week. And I also wanted to shout out Rosie Sperling. Rosie was a former Road 2 training series for the Gold Coast, and I work with Rosie. I know that she's had a difficult couple of weeks with sickness and has been quite unwell, and just managed to, I know she ran with you, Chris, so you could probably share a little bit more insight on this as well, but ran an incredible 3 hours 14, equaling her PB. She's so tough. She's awesome and always looks so focused.
Oh, yeah, for sure. She's absolutely tough as nails, and she was with me from basically kilometre 1 to kilometre 41. So, I think she might have like struggled a little bit in the heat in the last couple of kilometres, but I think she still managed to get under that 3:15, which was amazing. Just so impressed by the way she ran in the group today. She kind of, in some ways, was the third pacer of the group. So, really, really great to have an opportunity to run with Rosie after having kind of spent a bit of time talking to her in the lead up to Gold Coast. But, that was awesome. I'll quickly shout out a couple of other blokes that were in that group. There was Max McDonald and Ben Fowler, two people who I'd only met today. Max had a couple of blokes. He got swept up by us, actually. I think his goal was 3:10. It's his first marathon, and he had a couple of mates who were on their bikes who tracked us all the way from Mounts Bay Road all the way back, or basically from all the way from Mounts Bay Road all the way back to the stadium. So I think it was about 11 kilometres or something in the end that they spent with us, and it was just go Max for like 11 kilometres side by side with us on their bikes, which was really cool of them.
That's so good.
And Max managed to kind of kick on from us at the end down off the Matagarup Bridge. So that was awesome to see him achieve an incredible first marathon. And then Ben Fowler was someone who had a goal of running under 3:15 and squeezed in by about 13 odd seconds. He on my Strava he made a comment and said he called me an angel or something like that, and said he was extremely grateful to be able to sit at seat 2B on the bus for 190 minutes. So
bless him.
very, very happy to have. He even came and found me after the race and had said a few words. So that was nice of him to do that. Great to meet those guys.
Yeah, it's a special thing, pacing, and you do feel like so grateful to the people that give up, like yourself, that give up their races. And then, you've got so much to think about as a pacer. You would have, experienced that the last, you've obviously done a couple of years of pacing. It's not an easy job, particularly when there aren't any kilometre markers.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough, but it's always, it does make it worthwhile when you get those interactions with people.
A couple more from me. So Adam Lachlan, who jumped in to the marathon I think in the last week or so, wasn't doing it. Ran 3:28. In his words on Strava, said, my second slowest marathon, but one of his fondest, probably due to my cowbell ringing, to be fair. But I've maybe given myself too much kudos there. And then we've got a few others from Bento Run Club or BTRC and Team Tina. So Matt Kean just came in outside of 3 hours in 3:02. Well done, Matt. And Zane Walsh of Team Tina paced his daughter to a 45-minute PB for 3:51, which is amazing.
Unreal.
So I saw that all over the socials this afternoon. Friend of the pod, Anson Soon, he ran 3:23 and gave a very detailed account of his fueling and digestion and locations of said fueling and digestion in his Strava, which was great. I enjoyed seeing that he had 4 slices of white bread with butter, 2 teaspoons of raw sugar for breakfast. And where he ate and drank his next bit of fuel was in the car, where and when he pooped and where he peed. But apparently he had a wee for a whole minute. Which, sorry, Anton Sue, now everyone knows, but you did put it on Strava. So, But yeah, I liked the detail there. It was great. And another couple from me, Rach Nathan, off of a bit of an injury a while ago, came back and did very little training to run 3:30, which I don't know how she did that, but yeah, awesome work, Rach. Damien McVie, who we called out a few weeks ago, who did the Collie River Ultra, off the back of that 3 weeks ago, I want to say, ran a marathon PB of 3:34. And Tommy Glackin, I noticed his Strava today. He said he ran 3:43 and he said, started too fast, got some blisters, my hammy in my left calf and my Achilles gave up, but I was still super happy. It was so much positivity in his write-up, even though it was like, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, but it was all good. Jackie Kellerman, a friend of mine and a good one of our good yellow runners, 1:27 half and 7th place. So awesome job, Jackie. And I also wanted to call out friend of the show, Emma Lindley, who paced her friend Lauren to a PB in the half marathon. I think it was 1:55 from memory. And then my final one, previous Warp host, Dan Bowbridge, who also shouted the coffees at Wolves yesterday. So thanks, Dan, for that. Ran 36:43 in the 10K, and his splits were incredible. Although he did say that his Strava had thrown up an error, so he possibly did get on a bike or in a car to do that. I don't think he did really. I think he's just been training very hard. So yeah, good job, Dan.
No, it's fantastic, Dan. It's good to see him back running really well. I mean, he ran sub-3 at Beaver Lake not long ago, and now he's running 36-minute 10Ks and only getting quicker. So, sky's the limit for Dan. Obviously, he's got a good caliber of fitness, and looking forward to seeing how far he wants to take it. Maybe he wants to start a new podcast. I will give a final call out to a friend of mine, Frankie Ferreira. He ran 3:47 for a PB today. After some tough family news this week, which obviously makes that achievement more incredible, given the things that might have been going through his head. Today, he was probably considering not running the race at all, and the fact that he managed to still get out there and get it done, knowing that there were some pretty serious things going on in his family. Massive stuff from Frankie. Congratulations on the run, mate.
Well done, Frankie.
Pacer call-outs. We had Mark Griffiths running the 4:30 pack. He's in the past told me he's given me casual kudos, which confused me deeply at the time. But we had a good chat today, so it's good stuff from Mark. And
I think actually I might have done Mark out of half an hour. I think he might have been the 4-hour pacer, so that is entirely my fault.
Correct, actually,
Mark,
you are.
Sorry.
You are correct. My apologies. I should have known that too, because I did see it on his bib in the marathon tent this morning. Ryan Shand paced with Chris Lark, but I think you've put here that Ryan was wearing the easy double cap in the 3:30 pack. So not only is it a PB cap for Simon, but it also proves that pacing is the perfection, pacing perfection cap. So those guys over there at Easy Double might be onto something. And then I just wanted to quickly shout out Uncle Ordwin, who ran the 3:15 bus with me today. Ordwin's always reliable for a Sunday long run. Love running with him, and the fact that I got to do this with him today was fantastic. So shout out to you, mate. I think he carried. And I should also shout out Matt Smarilli, actually, because he was our Uber Eats for the day. He was supposed to originally run the 3:15 group with me,
that's right,
but had to pull out due to some glute tendinopathy. So he instead carried bottles for Audie and I up and down the freeway and out to Mounts Bay Road, and he also carried bags of snakes for which that we then passed on to people who were running in the 3:15 bus. So massive shout out to Ma, as we like to call him.
Good job, Matt.
There's a couple of other ones here. I saw a video that you posted, actually, Vicky, of Big Kev doing some push-ups.
Just Big Kev being Big Kev. Somebody asked me, is this Big Kev trying to get a Weapon of Warp nomination? I was like, no, that's just what Big Kev does. He had run Transcend back in August, and I think he's done like 4 training runs maybe since then, if that. I think he's been niggly and various things going on. So he's always a showman, though. So he stopped at about 28k to do some press-ups on the course. And if anyone wants to head over to my Instagram, have a look at that. There's a video on there. We might put it on the Warp Instagram as well, with permission of Kev. There was also a guy with his arm in a sling that ran, I don't know who he was, but he ran the entire way holding his arm. It was literally in a sling, a broken arm, I'm assuming.
Wow.
Which I was like, and I saw him a few times, like, I don't know how you're doing that. And it looked like it was quite painful. And he wasn't running. He was running pretty at a fair clip as well.
Wow.
And then there was also, I wanted to call out a fast guy in a hard hat, because, again, I don't know this guy, but he looked pretty, he was sub-3, definitely sub-3 runner.
Oh, yeah.
Running in a white hard hat. I don't know whether you saw him, Chris, but
I did, yeah.
He was full of the joys of spring, very happy, geeing up the crowd, cheering back at us, and good very good effort. I mean, I know that a hard hat is not the most difficult of fancy dress you could choose to run a marathon in, but I still thought it was impressive.
Yeah, he looked like a brick shithouse too. So
he did. He did. I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, he did.
Yeah, no, he was very good. There was a lot of people out there doing some interesting stuff today, but to be up to he must have been in the top 10 in the marathon. I think that guy was
he was moving,
absolutely flying. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's Perth Marathon, everyone. That's Perth Running Festival 2025, and obviously there's a few more events coming up this year, but we'll wait to see what happens with this one next year. Keep the eyes peeled and the ears open, and we'll look to see what announcements the Marathon Club makes over the course of the next few months. Now, obviously, our absent co-host isn't here today to talk through what is his monumental achievement of finally running a sub 3 hour marathon that he brutally missed at Gold Coast, that listeners will remember. I think I saw at last count on his Strava post there was 120 comments of support to him today, so I'm sure he is absolutely flying on cloud nine right now, having run a 2:57 at Melbourne today. Ran a very evenly paced race from what I saw until he appeared to have had a few cramping issues very late in the race and had to basically crawl into the MCG, but still managed to squeeze out 2:57. So congratulations, Simon. A well-deserved run, mate, and hopefully some rest coming up, and hopefully those divorce papers have been put away for a little while.
Yeah, awesome job, Si. I was so happy to see that this morning. I was tracking. I'd got cowbells in one hand, my camera out on my phone, and also just like flicking between my Melbourne screen. And I was standing on a post at the stadium, waiting for the marathon runners to come through. I was like, I can't do any more things at once. I was so happy to see him coming in pretty hot towards the last few kilometres of the marathon, and he did say to me on a message earlier, I wasn't sure how long we were going to be able to drag that story out for. And I was like, were you just dragging it out? Like, maybe he actually could have run sub 3 at Gold Coast, but thought that this was good for the podcast, that he didn't.
Yeah, well, that's some very sadistic stuff, if that's the case. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't think that was the case. But I am so happy for him. And
I think, there was a few other people over there too, weren't there, Vicky?
There was. I'm going to shout out Andy Carrington. Andy has had some hamstring issues in the last couple of weeks, months, and he's done some pretty big races. He's done Birdie's Backyard most recently, or quite recently, and he ran 3:01, so just outside of sub 3. But I think he'll be really happy with that, considering he's had a bit of an interrupted build. I wanted to also shout out Shaf. Shaf, he celebrated his birthday this week and was rewarded with a new shiny half marathon PB of 1 hour 21 minutes. Mm-hmm. Think a little bit outside of what he was after, but still PB's a PB, so I think we'll take it, Shaf. And then I also wanted to shout out Hayley, another wolf. Hayley went over to Melbourne, actually flew over to Melbourne from Perth and paced the half marathon. And I just think the same with all the other paces that we've mentioned. Great effort to give up your race and pace others and help them out. And I think probably lots of warm and fuzzies at the end when you get people to reach their goals.
Yeah, for sure. No, 100%. And I'll just give one more shout out to Narrischka Irvine. So she ran a 3:28 today over in Melbourne. I think, she's run, I think it's her 4th marathon for the year, which I think she ran Busso back in February. She ran Gold Coast, she ran Sydney, and now she's run Melbourne. Melbourne. So, really impressive stuff from Narri. And if all things go well, I think Simon and Narri might record a little race recap for themselves today. We know that they had some technical issues this morning when they recorded, so fingers crossed they can stitch it all together. So here is a chat with Narri and Simon.
All right, take 3. I'm sitting next to someone that also suffered with me at Melbourne Marathon yesterday. It's someone who Chris and I have a huge respect for, someone that is real and honest, a mama of 2, running through life and marathons, sharing highs and lows and everything in between. Narrischka Irvine, welcome to the WA Running Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're sitting here, we've slept on it, reflected on our run yesterday, but before we get into that, obviously 2025 has been a huge year for you from a running point of view. How would you sum up your year so far?
I would say it was challenging, yet rewarding, but also very humbling this year, running-wise, I would say.
So, your year kicked off with the Busso Bay run, which was a challenging run for you in which you DNF'd. Obviously, you've come back with 3 marathons in quick succession in Gold Coast, Sydney and Melbourne. What prompted you to get back on the bandwagon after Busso's disappointment back in Feb?
Yeah, so just for context for everyone, had a really good training block, probably the fittest I've been. And I think there was a lot of hope they'll get back on the podium from previous year. But got whooping cough 2 weeks out of a marathon, which is not ideal because I'm also a premature baby. And my lungs get quite affected by anything like that. So I started the race and at 23K, I had to call it because I was basically passing out, couldn't breathe and vomiting. So finished the race, did not finish the race, but was very disappointed in myself and also felt like I let everyone down around me, including my family. So I was sulking for a while, and also I was in a complete funk, and probably till April, I would say, when I did the 10K Essex fun run, the Bridges fun run, because I was running with a friend. We didn't even run fast, but we did kind of push the last 2K, just had fun with it over the finish line. And afterwards I had to run straight to pot plan and vomit, which is not, that was not even an effort. I was like, something's still not right here because I could feel my breathing getting a bit funny. Went to doctors, they said, yeah, it's going to take 3 months to get over it. And it's probably 3 months it took me to get back really into good interval threshold sessions and just feel like me again, running-wise. So it took a while, but my why is the reason I continued.
So a big focus of your running this year has been around running for premature babies. Why is that important to you?
So my little one was born 10 weeks early. My borders broke at 30 weeks at my mate's 30th at the Bargaba. The doctors told me I'll probably be on bed rest for 4 weeks, so it wasn't as alarmed, but I kind of knew something was going, and she was very impatient to enter this world. And so 30 weeks early, we had a baby girl. She ended up being in NICU for 7 weeks. And through that process, I realised how important life-saving equipment is to keep them alive and help them fight for the best possible outcome for later in life. And I think since then, I said, whatever I can do to raise funds and help premature babies, all the other babies and the past ones, I'll do whatever I can. So that's why I signed up for 4 marathons in 1 year.
And what was the game plan around those 3 marathons? So you had Gold Coast in July, tough conditions as a sweaty boy, and then you had Sydney, obviously the marathon major, and then you backed it up with Melbourne yesterday. So how did you frame those 3 marathons, and how did you tackle, I guess, the training for those 3?
So yeah, we had a plan going into the 3 marathons. I guess when I told Smithy, my coach, that I'm doing 3, he probably would have shaken his head in person. But we then settled on, okay, let's focus on Gold Coast because I'm going to get a good solid 12-week training block in and make that my PB. And then Sydney will be the party pace, Melbourne will be just a fast marathon. Did it plan out that way? No. I wouldn't say I had the ideal training block for Gold Coast. I did all right, but I did not have a PB. I blew up massively. I think you can relate. And then I walked running the end. It was just not a marathon I want to live again. And then I went to Sydney, which was the party pace race, and I had so much fun. I was 20 seconds off my PB. If I had known that now, I probably would have kick the potty pace to the side towards the end and just send it. But I don't regret anything because I had so much fun, and I think I had a smile the entire race on my face, which says something in the marathon when they say it's extremely hilly course. And then Melbourne, I was going to do fast marathon, which I think was actually meant to be my PB race. Did I get that? No. But we can go if I had a fast marathon, a steady pace. So that's how that planned out for me.
Wonderful. All right, well, let's get into race week for us. So maybe we'll start with you in terms of, what was the lead-in like? How early did you get in? And, let's talk about the expo and the carb load and the night before. How did that pan out for you? Did that go to plan in terms of the prep leading into race day?
Yeah, so I flew in on Wednesday. I probably arrived at 7. I must say the daylight savings really threw me when I arrived, but that luckily I actually arrived early to get used to it. So the plan was for me to work here because my office is here on the Thursday and Friday, which I did. But in the process, I started my carb loading probably a bit earlier, just from where I am on my cycle and advice I've been given. So I slowly actually started carb loading on Tuesday. So it's safe to say by the time we got to Saturday, I was well and truly over it, but I'll unpack that a bit later. I stayed at Citadines in the Paris Inn of Melbourne, I call it. So it's very basic but comfortable accommodation. It's probably 1.3 kilometres from the start and finish line. So in that aspect, it was very handy. We could just walk down to the start and finish line, which we did for a practice run before. And in the morning, it worked great. The expo, yes, there was no Bryan, so that's just a letdown on its own. If Brian's not there, it's not an expo, I guess. No, not at all. I wouldn't say it was as great. It was not as great. Like, it's a bit underwhelming for how big and the hype is around the Melbourne Marathon itself. Like, little things I reflect on. They give you a bit, but they say you can do backdrop, but they don't give you a bag to do a backdrop in. Where I feel like even Gold Coast gave everything in the bag. Just little things like that. I just wasn't, I won't say it's much better than Perth. We'll say that. They much better. But I wasn't overly impressed with it. And maybe because it's an outdoor expo, it's different. But yeah, I wasn't oh, this is wow. So the carb loading, yes, as I said, I started a bit earlier. On a Friday, I guess in Melbourne, you've got spoiled for options. So I went for shakeout jog and then with Leanne, and then we went to Loon. And I might have gone back to Loon on Saturday and got all the pastries. I think I'm still convincing Simon whether it's as good as they say it is. And I just travel around, ate my way from Melbourne. A lot of pasta, I would say, because there's a lot of pasta restaurants, Italian restaurants here. But the night before, we did do our traditional carb load. We went to a restaurant and we ordered 7 bowls of rice and beef skewers. That's just our go-to, and that works for us. So yeah, I would say my carb loading worked well. I think I really got that down packed. My belly was a bit iffy the morning of the race leading into it, but I think it's just due to where I was in my cycle. That's just any other day I'm okay with it. Didn't get sucked into any shakeout jogs like by Lululemon or Nike or whatever, but I did go. I think the morning we woke and we walked to the start line just to make sure we're where it is. We got our Loon, and then I got back. I was like, should I bother with a shakeout jog? I was like, no, just stick to it. That was work for you. So I quickly went for a 3K jog, just on my own, which was nice along the river. And sleep leading up to race was really good for me because I think there was no family around, so I focused on getting about between, I probably averaged 9 hours sleep the 3 nights before, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I choose to have a decent sleep in on Saturday, so I didn't wake up till 8. But the night before the race, I think like anyone, it was shocking. And I almost slept in. My alarm went off at 4, didn't wake up till 4:30. But luckily I woke up. So yeah, sleep was leading up to race great. Probably the best I've ever had. But yeah, shitty sleep the night before.
9 hours of sleep. Oh, must be nice. Shit. Wow. Yeah, I know. So for me, I got in Friday evening. So the flight was 11:30 a.m. at Perth. From Perth, flew with Virgin, and there was a bit of a delay, but still got to Melbourne at 6:30. We had dinner Friday night. I feel like when you're flying with the daylight savings, you think you've got time to carb load, but I feel like I under sort of fueled. My plan was to start the carb load on Friday, and then, carry on to Saturday. But felt like I sort of didn't eat enough. We had dinner at the Italian place Friday night, but then afterwards I had dinner number 2, and that was like 11:30 at night. And with daylight savings, I didn't get to bed till like 1, and then woke up at 6:30. So it didn't feel like I got a good night's sleep 2 days out. Saturday, you tried to convince me that Loon was the place to be for pastries, and it was worth the 20-minute wait. Was it worth the wait for me? Well, I don't know. I'm a basic bitch, so I don't really appreciate the fancy pastries and baked goods, to Linda's disappointment. So it was good. It was good. What did I have? I had the morning bun, I think, and I had an almond croissant. And they had like a runner's cruffin thing. I had those 3, and they were okay. They were right. Coffee was good. That was appreciated. And then, we walked to the start line just to get our bearings in terms of where we needed to be on race morning, so we weren't anxious and stressed come Sunday morning. And then did my best to try and carb load as much as I could. Which I think we did a pretty good job in the grand scheme of things. We went to a Japanese restaurant Saturday night. Thought it was going to be a casual eatery, but it ended up being a very bougie, fancy Japanese fusion dance music, nightclub kind of atmosphere. To probably our surprise, because we were just wearing shorts or loose pants and very, very dressed down. We had, ourselves, we had David Perich, we had Mike Lawson, who was also here with his partner as well. So, 6 of us in casual running gear, eating at a very fancy place was pretty funny, and it was even funnier when we ordered very basic food as well, to their surprise, and they kept double checking our order because they were very, very confused. But that went really well. I picked up my bib actually Saturday morning, so that was the first thing I did. I agree, the expo wasn't great, but then I had low expectations because I think people were saying that the expo wasn't great. I mean, we're going to bag Perth Running Festival. Perth Running Festival claimed to have an expo, but I don't know what they're expoing because there was nothing there. At least there were sort of tents and sort of exhibitions around Melbourne, albeit it's not like a Gold Coast, and I know you talk up Sydney, so probably not to that level, but at least, there's stuff there, and there's sort of marquee type areas, which was cool, and agreed. And I suppose being an outdoor expo, it's I guess you don't get the same vibe and atmosphere as you would if you were inside. So, but I was in and out first thing Saturday, so that meant that wasn't waiting in line. I know David picked his bib much later, and there were lines sort of going around, and it took a while for him to pick up his bib. Overall, the week was good in terms of sleep. I don't sleep well. I didn't get the 9 hours. The daylight savings kind of screwed me over. On the Saturday night, I got 4.5 hours, which actually is pretty good for me. I usually sleep terribly. So, kind of happy with that. And then the morning of, did my hyperhydration routine. So I woke up at 3:30, sent you a message, and then you didn't reply back till 4:30, so I had known that you had slept in, but managed to get ourselves and walked over to the start line with plenty of time to go to the loo and do bag drop and all that sort of stuff. So that was really good. All right, well, let's get into, I guess, our race recap. So we've slept on it, so we reflected on it somewhat. What was the game plan heading into Melbourne, and how did it pan out for you?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, Melbourne was meant to be the PB race. So Smithy and I had a clear plan going in, very detailed plan, and kind of broke in, I think would say, is 5K, then from 5K to 15, 25, and kind of breaking up like chunks like that. I was ready to go and execute as best as I can. But yeah, let's start, before I go unpack all that, like Simon said, we walked down to the start line. There was no issues getting to the start line. there was a lot of portaloos there. I feel like it's almost more than Sydney, which says something. Look, I went into the first, there was lack of toilet paper, actually, the portaloos. So, and then the second one in, and I just had to walk straight out because whoever was in there before me destroyed it. And I dry reached. Anyway, I ended up going to Portaloo. I was probably in there 4 times. I think it was a bit of nerves as well. But Simon went and did his backdrop, and we didn't see each other after that. So I kind of just went and did my own thing. I didn't do a shakeout jog or really drills the morning off because I was so nervous, and I met the running premature babies for a photo real quickly, and then I started going into the starting shoot, I would say. But it's not like other races. You kind of just stand in this long line, and you kind of have to find your way to where your pace group is. So they don't have sections, which I also find a bit interesting because it's quite a relatively big, 14,000 people. And if you start all the way in the back to get to your section, I would not want to be in the back. Anyway, so luckily I got my spot and I was quite comfortable. I was probably there 15 minutes early, I would say, because I get quite anxious about that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm here now. And then the festivities start and drums start, welcome to country. They had a couple of other things as well in the start line, but I kind of zoned out. I was like, let's just start this race. A really nice guy tapping me on the shoulder in the start line, say thank you for running premature babies. I did it last year, and he gave me some advice. We got me cheery on the start line. He said, Sophie, the lady who runs premature baby, her boys who passed away, their handprints is on my back. And he said, when you get to that hill in 36k, just envision them pushing you up. So then I started tearing up, having started the race yet. So I'm like, oh, this is great. Anyway, start the race. So we all kicked off. There's basically 2 sections. There's 2 lanes. You can be either on the left side or the right side of this road. But it's kind of funny because it's like both paces on either side. So you have 2 streets. The road's divided in 2. But like you've got your, like let's say 320 groups on both sides of the fence. So as soon as you run over the start line, which was okay. I didn't find it was too packed. I wasn't too squashed. But then within 500 meters, you all go into the same road. So I was on the right side, and I had, within the first 500 meters, I had an obstacle to jump over to get to the right side. So I'll probably start with that. There's a lot of hazards in this course, I would say. Literally like poles in the middle of things. There were some bins in the middle of the course. There's curbs galore. So I think you have to be... I know everybody talk Melbourne up, and I wouldn't say it's the worst course, but you have to be alert because even you run on tram line a lot, you have to constantly check where your footing is going. And I think there was a general consensus yesterday after our lunch. People say, yeah, they did find that a bit frustrating from everyone, which no one's talked to. I've never heard someone say about that. So I was like, is this just me? And then I was like, no, everybody's feeling the same way. Like some sections was roadworks and you just like, there's a pole all of a sudden. If it wasn't for the runners screaming out pole, you wouldn't know, which I don't think is common other courses. Anyway, got off. Got in the first 5K. The first 5K felt good. Obviously, you just find the rhythm of things and where you belong and find your group, and felt really strong. Enjoyed the sights. It was nice hot air balloons. It was nice to see it. I don't know if you even seen. I looked up and I saw all the hot air balloons in the sky. It's pretty special. And then I just found my rhythm quite quickly, and it wasn't too crowded. I wouldn't say. We easily spaced. Once we got past Flinders Station, I think we kind of spread out a bit more. So it's not like I had to weave my way through people. And then I actually started just in front of the 320 group. It was a bit of a strategic move because that's just kind of push for in case I fell behind, I can just fall into the pack. So, but then so that was the first 5K, and I think I was sitting about like 4:39 or 4:40 around there for the first 5K, which I knew was a bit too fast. But I was like, okay, I'll make sure I slow down for the next 10K. So once I hit the 5K mark, the plan was for 5 to 15K. It's just to sit around 4:44 and 4:44 to 4:45, and just cruise at that pace, which I think I executed really well. I think I was a bit below that some Ks. And I actually felt really strong. Which was the strangest thing, I had people, now that I know it was Ash, she was screaming out my name. I was like, who the hell is screaming out my name? But hey. And also people on course that know me through socials. And I don't have a huge following. Like I think it's just other mums that relates a lot to me that's been following me, screaming and cheering me on, which was actually really nice because I didn't have any support crew. And that first 15K was nice to see people. So you go out on the F1 track for the first 15K. So it's gone a bit of an out and back and through the park, which some sections were actually really nice there. But then you get to 15K and that's where you kind of head out to the beach section, if I remember it correctly. Now, this is where I was like, I still feel strong. So 15K I hit it, and then I was like, let's just get to 20K or the half, because you can see the halfway. That's also hard when you do these courses, when you do it out and back, because you can see on the side of the road, there's the 21 kilometre point. I can do this. And anyways, this long stretch out, and it's probably at a turnaround there where I was like, probably 18K, I would say. I was like, there's something, it's not feeling right. Or it's not feeling right. I just feel like I need to push now. Push through to 21K. I kind of had this girl, this purple shirt, and she had this two picky tails. Like, if I just keep on my side and follow, I'm fine. And I followed straight, perfectly fine. And then just as I probably pushed through to 23K and I still maintain that pace, I just was like, I need to start reevaluating what I'm doing. Yeah, I can feel this is a struggle. I'm not sure if I can maintain this pace the entire course. I think my body, leading into race, I knew my body was very fatigued and I could feel the aches coming up. Mentally, I was also, I must say, I was probably mentally also a bit fatigued going. There's only so much pep talk, but I think for this one, because I was running for premature babies, I had their shirt on, I knew what I'm here for and my why, and also it was my little girl's 4th birthday yesterday. I was like, I need to push through. I cannot stop. The goal for this race is I'm not stop and walking at all, because I did that on Gold Coast and I think that spirals you more. So I just pushed through, and I think I pushed through to about 25K. And there you're still along the coast, and I wouldn't say it's like running along WA's coast. It looks like a river, and it was a bit gloomy, and it started rainy. And there's also the water stations. I don't know if you found that being ahead of me, but it's a bit chaotic at the water stations. There's cups galore. There's bins in the middle of the road. I was very strange, some of them, especially in that end of the turnaround point at the coastal side. Anyway, so turned around, got 25K. And at this stage, I'm like, okay, what's my game plan? How am I going to get through this race? Because at that point, I was like, I can just stop now. I'm like, but no, I'm not going to. So I was like, okay, let's just do a kilometre by kilometre. And I broke it up that way, played that mental game. And I also said my goal was not to stop, and then I kind of set goals like just get to this marker or just get to this point. So got to 30K. Now when you run up the 30K, there's a slight hill. There's a slight hill on the tram line, which I find also very interesting because you're kind of running between lines, and I found it wasn't a comfortable hill. It's not a huge hill, it's just a slight incline. But I was tired and I still was maintaining my pace relatively okay. And then you get around the corner and here you run into the 21 half marathon crew. 21.1K is what I want to say. And that just stuffed me up, well and truly. Because I was into the slower pack. I think it's probably the people who's running a half marathon in 2 hours, 30 minutes. So their pace is much slower already. You get stuck behind them. You have to constantly scream at people because they've got the headsets in. It takes a lot of energy. Then you jump over curbs to get around people, and I didn't enjoy it. So you with this pack till the 36K mark, and my pace significantly dropped down from weaving through people, screaming at people because they can't hear you. And then I think there was some level of anxiety because we all been told you have to be careful because at the 36K mark or 35K, we were like, it's between the 35 and 36K mark. There's a point where the marathoners go left and the half marathons go right. And I think at the beginning they marathon stay to the right, but I'm like, why are we staying to right if we have to turn left? So I was quite anxious to this point, and it felt like forever to get to this point. So once we hit that point and us marathoners could go to the left, just before I was jumping over curbs again and whatnot to get through all the half marathoners, you jump into this hill, this famous hill in Melbourne. Now, it's quite a deceiving hill. You go up the first little bit, you're like, oh, this is not too bad, and you hit this flat section, and then all of a sudden it's like, nah, you're going up for a solid 1K. You're just running up. I was like, okay, Narrischka, just slow right down. I was like, there's no point trying to break a record, so I'm not going to get my PB assessed. I was like, there's no way. You're not even close to a couple of seconds. I'm like, just don't break myself up this hill. I was quite tactful. Well, I still did a decent pace. I think it was 5:30 up that hills, but that almost broke me more than all the hills in Sydney. Because the Plaza of Sydney is actually a net downhill course. Although people talk about the hills, this is not. This is one big hill. And you think the downhill's huge, but it's actually not. I found it was nice to have that little bit of a down. Anyway, so you get around the corner there, and you finally go down, which was fine. I was in my head, I was like, oh, I really pick up the pace now, but I just couldn't. I just was empty. The tank was empty. My goal was just get to the finish line. Because Smithy's instructions even was like, in the last 7K, once you get over that hill, just send it. And I was like, this is not going to happen. There's no sending it today. Got down their line, and then probably the 38K mark, I had a backup gel. So like, let's take this gel and just get any energy you can get into it. And that's when you start seeing fun tables around, like we were talking about it. There was one table that had multiple beers on it, and they were offering people beers. I think at this point I was like, I'll take a beer. But I was like, no, it's probably not a good look running premature babies and having a beer on the course. Got past it, and then I feel like it got a bit congested. You go around the roundabout in the garden there where they were singing. I don't know if people were singing. There was this huge group of people singing around it. The choir people. I was like, this is rad, but hey, I'll take it. I think it's where I also turn my music off and turn it off. It's like there's also a lot of support once you get around the bend and run downhill. Then just before Flinders Stations, you run over the bridge, and then I found it started getting congested. People were jumping curbs and getting on the tram line. This is where people was taking, just get over this bridge and it's your last 2K and you send it. Then I was like, that's the last, probably 40K. It's a slight uphill when you run on the other side. It's not uphill, but it's not flat. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm sending this last 2K. So I got over it, and then you kind of also, it's a bit of a tease because you see the MCG at 34 and then at 30, probably around 38, you can just see the MCG. So you know it's close, but you know you still have a fair bit to go. So at 40K you run and you can see this line and you just follow the line. It's like, and I was kind of expecting us, you know, where we went up the hill for the start line, I thought for some reason we're going down there. But no, we ran past that and I was like, oh, okay. So that's a bit of a mind stuff up. So ran past, and then I could see the 41 kilometre sign, but also I can see it downhill. So I'm like, let's enjoy this downhill. It's like, let's just get past the stadium. So now you're basically next to the stadium running downhill. And that was also a tease. Or you can see the stadium and you go around the corner and you're like, okay, it must be just around the corner. And then you get in there and then you're like, nah, it's not around the corner. You still got like 600 metres to go. So ran in. And then just as you get to the MCG, you can really, there's a huge DJ just as the entrance to MCG. So it hypes you up for that entry, which is awesome. And then as soon as I hit that white turf they lay out, the mat, I start crying instantly because I think it's just, there's all this emotions coming out, wine running, my baby girl's birthday. And then they kind of direct you, the marathons go to the right and the half marathons go to the left, which is nice because it means we had our own finish shoot. And I think I just kind of really slowed down and I took it all in because I don't know when I'm going to run a marathon. I was like, it's not often you can say you finish on the MCG. So I slowly ran through, and then afterwards got over the finish line. I think I was sobbing when I crossed the finish line, so it's interesting to see the photos. I just stood there for a moment and they kind of ushering everybody off real quick, and I was just like, I just stood to the side, and I think they could just see from my facial expression, didn't just leave her. So they then usher you through. You don't get your medal straight away. You have to walk down this hill underneath the MCG, which a lot of people was actually, at my point I was there, was laying on that downhill, stretching their calves out because they couldn't walk and whatnot. Then as you get down underneath the MCG, they hand your medal, and that's where you get funneled through to the drinks. Bit of a disappointment because I only had water and Morton electrolytes, which give me a Gatorade, give me something else, a Powerade or something. And they had no watermelon. Just I don't want a banana. I'm not one of those banana eaters after a race at all. So I just grabbed a cup of water and then they funnel you through the gates for your t-shirt size. We get your finisher shirt. Once you get your t-shirt, then you walk up the steep hill to get out of the MCG, and then it was chaotic. Like, there was so many people. I tried to get to you guys and it took me probably 40 minutes because the traffic was standstill. I think they didn't navigate that really well to the backdrop. But anyway, so I got to you later, and that's where I just saw you. We celebrated. I probably cried because I was happy for you, but also I was just so emotional by the time I got to you, and I just wanted to hug someone. So that's a long race recap of my race.
And look, a decent time from you as well, right? Like, so 3 hours 28. So, you know, although you said, you know, you made the decision to slow down and, you know, enjoy the moment. And I know, you know, chatting to you beforehand, you said that, you know, the words that you want to, I guess, represent your best self was to finish strong and to run proud. And did you feel like you pulled that off, I guess, if that was the overarching game plan heading into it?
Yeah, I think I ran strong and ran proud. And I think learning from Gold Coast and what happened there, you need to pivot. If your end goals don't spiral, just go, okay, I'm not going to reach it, but what is achievable? And I think that's why I quickly pivoted and did the maths. I was like, okay, I can still get under 3:30, which for a lot of people, that's like a huge thing. I think I just have this 3:20 barrier. That's my goal. And I think I need to go and reflect. And when I'm ready to attend marathons again, that's my goal.
All right. Well, I'll get into my recap. So when we split it up, I did bag drop, and then so I met up with David Perrich and we did a quick warm up, and then tried to, you know, squeeze ourselves into the start line. And strangely, the security guard didn't let us through. So for we were there like. We were 15 minutes to go, and yeah, the security guard actually didn't let us into the chute, even though the area for, you know, the 3 hour kind of rough pace group was just completely empty. So it was really, really weird. And it wasn't until 3 minutes to go that he finally allowed us in. So there was a level of anxiousness there, but I suppose in my head, I wasn't too stressed about, you know, starting behind or in front of the pace group or anything like that. In terms of the game plan heading into the race, T and I spoke maybe 3 weeks ago, something to the effect of, you know, heading into it, let's range between 406s to 412s based on feel. And then, you know, if you feel good, 406s, or don't go faster than 406. If you're feeling a bit flat, go to 412s. And then just like, you know, hover in between, so don't be too obsessed with paces necessarily. Make a call at 34Ks on whether to push or to maintain. And then obviously some strategies to get you through the rest of the race. The other thing I took into the race was, you know, listening to Raf in the last episode around the 3 anchor words. So my anchor words were, you know, role model, strong, and to be courageous. So I wrote that on my arm just as a bit of a reminder when things get tough. Anyway, the race started, and I agree with you, like, pretty chaotic start. You got the 2 lanes that it opens up. Then you've got hazards. You know, there's the merging. People are making some wild decisions at the start as well. Like, people were switching lanes and moving all over the shop. Like, there is the general chaos of starting a race. But yeah, Melbourne is just a whole different level with the lanes and the hazards and stuff in the way. People pushing each other. Like, that was probably the biggest thing that came out of Melbourne was probably race etiquette was probably out the window, which, yeah, it was wild for me. Before the race started, there was no hype-up speech from Rob Di Costella. In a way, that was probably a good thing, because, yeah, that probably freaked us out at Gold Coast. Heading to... There were the Japanese drummers, which, you know, psyched us up at Melbourne. But no yelling of Deeks. Yeah, look, I think the first 5Ks was really about settling down, and I think really taking on the feedback of Gold Coast. I was stressed from the get-go, and I was obsessed about holding a pace. And when, you know, things were slow because of the congestion, I freaked out. And, tried to make up time for it. This time round, I knew the first K was slow, like I think it was 4:20s or 4:30s from the top of my head, but I didn't let that, stress me. So I also set my watch to what I thought was, 5K splits, but it ended up being a manual lap, and I actually didn't manual lap at all. But that was good in the end, because I always had the average pace on my watch, and in a way that was good, because as long as I held a reasonable average pace, that was good, and then sort of just ran to feel. Other than that, so first 5Ks was good, kind of went by really quickly. You sort of make that loop into Albert Park, saw the Team Tina crew that weren't running, and then I saw Ben Tay to the side, so unfortunately he had pulled out. He was sort of battling sort of a niggle and was touch and go in terms of whether or not he was going to start. Unfortunately pulled out, so that was a bit of a distraction, and I was feeling devastated for Ben, and it probably took me a while to sort of readjust and refocus. Albert Park was amazing, like in terms of that loop, which was really good. I overtook a guy dressed up as a beer can, which was a bit of a moment at Albert Park. And then I was maintaining 4:10s. I had 4:10s on my watch. I know GPS error, probably adjusted that back to 4:12s in reality, but I was pretty comfortable with that. Like, everything felt in control. Complete different contrast to Gold Coast. So I liked that feeling of being in control, and it felt comfortable, and I kind of maintained that. I think, when you break it down by K, I was hovering. There was probably a hover between the 4:06s to 4:12s, but the average pace was somewhere in that 4:10 range, which I was happy about. And then you got to the beach stretch, like you talked about, and strangely, there was a flag up ahead, like the pace flag. In my head, I just assumed that was the 250 pace group. Turns out it was the 3-hour pace group. So I actually saw some of the Team Tina guys who were going for sub 3 or thereabouts. So I saw Grazer, I saw Andy Carrington, and I was like, oh shit, I've been behind the 3-hour bus this whole time. So it made me realize that the 3-hour bus was going way too quick. Because I was, hitting 4:10s, and, with some of the case splits of 4:06s, 4:08s, I wasn't catching up to them anytime soon. So I wasn't sure what their pace strategy was at the time. I didn't let that get to me necessarily. I just, I knew I was comfortable. I knew what the pace was on my watch, so I sort of kept at it. You hit 18Ks and you kind of do a hairpin turn, and you sort of head the other way down the beach. And then a decent crowd support in moments, which was good. I passed the halfway at 1:28:30, which was sort of bang on to what I wanted. And then I was actually meant to pick up a personalised drink from one of my mates who wasn't running. He was on the side. I couldn't see him. So I didn't really bother to pick up the personal drink anyway. I had a drink in my hand, which I finished by then, and I think I had enough in terms of drinking anything more at the time. And then you make another turn sort of at the 24K mark, and in that period of time, I finally caught up to the 3-hour bus, overtook the 3-hour bus. Huge bus, like it was hundreds of people in the 3-hour bus, which was massive. Then we did the turn at 25Ks, I'm going to say. And then there was a bit of headwind heading in that direction. There was a bit of rain, which actually was a good relief in that moment in time. Like, I didn't hate that at all, and it was a bit short-lived, which was good as well. So by then I was ahead of the 3-hour pack. There was a decent group, I suppose, starting to make a move. I G'd up. There were people, obviously behind me running in the opposite direction. So I was G'ing up, David Perrich, because I was able to see him. I saw Andy Lee, who, not the celebrity Andy Lee, but there's an Andy Lee from Perth. So I saw him, G'd him up. And even before the turn, I saw Mike Lawson, I saw Sarah Greenwood. So hyping them up sort of was a bit of a good distraction for me in what was relatively a boring section of the course. So on the way back, we, heading to 30 Ks, going up that sort of incline back into the city. Agree, it was probably mentally starting to get fatiguing, although physically I felt in control and strong at the time. And yeah, the merging of the half marathon is an absolute shit show. I think it's not helpful when you have those hazards like we talked about. It's not helpful when you have like bollards, tram tracks. Like it's not like clean open road. So people kind of venture into the tram section to the side, and the half marathons. I sort of went into, I guess, I imagine the 2-hour pace group for the half marathoners, or slightly slower. So there was perhaps a bit of a yo-yoing of pace changes, which kind of killed the mojo a little bit. And like you said, I think we talked about this veering off to the side at some point, and I couldn't remember at which K mark. I know it was going to happen at some point. So, for us to run on the right-hand side, half marathons to the left, and then at some point having to veer left, there was a bit of anxiety in that moment. So I was trying to find people who I knew was running a marathon.
I kept on looking at bibs, and like I said, red bibs around.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, very much so. At that moment, Tom Shenton passed me. So I was like, I need to find Tom again and see if I can follow him. And then, yeah, you kind of run together, and then you kind of do a weird loop into the tunnel. And then, yeah, I'm anxious as hell. I'm like, am I going the right way? How fucked up would it be if I end up doing the wrong course, not doing sub 3 and having to explain myself on the podcast? But anyway, sort of got out of the tunnel, navigated through the half marathon is okay, albeit sort of killed the vibe and mojo. And then you get into the sort of the tan botanical garden section. Timing wise, it was amazing because I saw the Team Tina support crew again, heading into the botanical gardens, and this is the Melbourne hill that people talk about at 36K. I think the hill itself is not bad, but it's just it's the timing of it, right? And like you said, there is like a little climb, then it's a flat, and then there's a climb to the top again. Everyone around me started to struggle, and I think it's a bit of a mental breakdown of people. So you could see everyone crumbling around me, but I felt really strong. I powered up the hill, and at this point in time, my paces have been pretty consistent. In fact, I got a bit faster as we got through. Powered up the hill, and then I suppose at that moment, the decision point had passed, because 34Ks was my decision point on when to push or maintain. And because of the anxiety of, oh shit, where am I needing to go? That decision process in my brain had already come and passed. So I think at that moment I went, you know what? I'm feeling good now. I've never felt in control in a racing marathon at this point in time. I want to maintain this feeling.
How amazing is that feeling?
Yeah.
I had that in Sydney. It's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, exactly. Like usually every time I've raced a marathon, 32Ks, I am fucked. Like I'm cramping at this point. And, obviously Gold Coast I didn't cramp, but I was in the hurt locker for far too long. But I was in control. I felt great. The hype crew were at good moments. I was starting to use those anchor words again. So I went through moments where, mentally I was starting to get tired, and I was just yelling those anchor words. So I probably looked like a bit of a weirdo at the time, where I was just yelling role model and courageous and strong. But yeah, got to the top of the hill, decided not to send, and kind of maintained. And then 39Ks, I saw the guys again, and I started to hype people up around me, which probably allowed me to still maintain a pretty strong pace. Started to work, but still in control. And then I'd say at 39Ks I started to feel dehydrated, and I went, oh no, like something's going to happen at some point. luckily, the cramps didn't hit me until 41 Ks. So, you go past the Flinders section, like you said, over the bridge, and you turn into, I guess, as you head into the MCG finally. And then I think the cramps hit me when there's a bit of a downhill as you head into the MCG. Unfortunately, the guy with the beer can had caught up. So I was overtaken by the beer can as I started to cramp, and it was a rough finish in the end. So I guess looking back, a good move for me to not push, or else it would have been a disastrous last couple of Ks. But it was a bit of a hobble, sort of last K down the road as you enter the MCG. You do the lap of the MCG. Obviously feeling a bit emotional, but thankfully, in a way, I was in so much pain that had no time to cry or be emotional about this whole sub 3 thing. So there's going to be some ugly ass photos in the MCG coming through, and then cross the finish line in 2:57.11. So I've slept on it. It probably hasn't sunk in yet, but what I do know is, like, very, very satisfied on the execution of the race. And it's probably a race that, in the weeks to come, I'll reflect and be very happy that I was in control. Something that I wasn't in at Gold Coast. So a big contrast. But I do another marathon again, very, very unlikely. I think after doing sub 3, I'm in no motivation to go sub 2:55 or be like Chris and shoot for a 2:50. But you never know. We'll see. We'll see how we go. I think Linda will be happy. My current thinking is no marathons anytime soon. I think, overall, in terms of Melbourne as an event, I think if you are shooting for a particular goal like a sub 3, there is a huge pack. And if that's something that you need to achieve your goal, I think Melbourne's the place to be. Obviously, the weather was pretty good. There's no humidity like a Perth Running Festival. So I think that's a big plus for people. I think you're right. The course, they need to work on that course, particularly in the half marathon merge points, in critical moments for a marathon. Like, you're already hurting. You're in the hurt locker at 30 to 35 Ks. The last thing you need is to tell half marathoners to fuck off. And I imagine that moment breaks people in a marathon. Like, it's already hurting. It's already hard. So hopefully, I know I saw a Brett Robinson interview sort of in the last 24 hours about it. He agrees, like, they need to do something with that section. It's not helpful when, I guess, the infrastructure for Melbourne is very tough in the CBD with the tram lines and all the obstructions that are in place. So surely there's like a diversion. I think if the merge happened earlier, it's not as bad.
But there's opportunity there to split. There's opportunity there to split it for sure, because they were running. I think they changed that, and it's not talked. I know people kind of touch on it, but no one's told me about the hazards. And I think we should. I think it's a good thing we share, so people take this into account if they go, which obese marathon do I want to do. It's got its pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah, and I think reflecting back, maybe the 3-hour bus went as quick as it did to account for the fact of the merge, which, I don't know, is that a good thing or not? I don't know. If you're kind of pushing for a 3-hour marathon, 4:15 pace, and they're going at it 4:08s, 4:06s, probably a bit too much, like to overcook it too early and bank on a positive split. Don't know. So I think that's probably just something to take into consideration for people. I mean, the vibe, amazing. I think, we reflected on Gold Coast where there were people sort of throughout the whole course. But I think at Gold Coast, when you need crowd support, it wasn't there. Like at that 32, 36K mark where you're going up the highway, that's lonely at Gold Coast and you're hurting. Obviously, the humidity is a factor at Gold Coast that I think a lot of people sort of get put off by. Definitely me, that's for sure. I think Melbourne, the crowd support is definitely there. Maybe probably on par with Gold Coast, but I think what's important for Melbourne is you get the crowd support when you need it. So that 38k onwards, it's a lot. Yeah, and even the hill section of the Botanical Gardens, because I suppose it's accessible for people. Like, you get a lot of people there. So yeah, you really get the G up as you finish. Yeah, I did see the I think they were called the Pop Choir. They were at the roundabout, and I think they were sort of in that hill section. So that was a good G up. But yeah, look, overall, I think Melbourne's great. I think if you're looking to PB, or you're looking to get a particular time, I think it is the place to be. It's not perfect. I know you rave around Sydney, but I think it's a decent option in October. Yeah. You don't get that many marathons this time of year in Australia where the weather's good. Yeah. And there's just little bits to consider, I think, that you might just need to be conscious of, like the merge points, the chaos at the start, the obstructions. Going back to the race etiquette, yeah. Once I ran out of my, the fluids I had in my hand and was relying on the aid stations, madness. And the race etiquette's all over the shop. Like, I got pushed and shoved. I think you did as well. It's a little bit wild. It's not like the nanny state of Perth, where I think people are a little bit more nicer and there's probably less people, right?
Yeah, just to touch on that, I'm not giving Melbourne a bad rap. I think for me mentally, because it's quite a flat course, I actually like a more challenging course, because I think I'll get lost and I don't just check my pace the whole time. And that's why obviously Sydney will have it's a major now, and the crowd support is crazy and you've got more hype there. Just out of the free states, I think just in general, there's also more sightseeing to do in Sydney, so you get distracted. Like, Melbourne's beautiful and people love the older buildings, everything. Great, this is the place for you to run. But for me, I'm like, it's just another building. I just give me something exciting to look at. So for me, that's just a difference. And I quite like the hill aspect there, because I'm good at net downhills. I'm really good going downhills, where, yeah, the hill went up, but the downhill wasn't as rewarding as over there. But yeah, overall, I think it's a really good race. And like I just touched on that, people was really rude, the runners. I was sweared at, I was pushed at water stations. I almost felt like one stage throwing my cup in someone's face, but I was like, no, Narrischka, let's not go down to that level. So yeah, and it was for October race, the weather, temperature and everything, that was really good, I think.
All right. Well, we're recording for a while now, so let's wrap up. Yeah. So yeah, what's I guess going back to you and your running, what's next for you, sort of the rest of the year or next year?
Now I'm just gonna rest. I think I'm taking a solid 2 weeks off running. I think my body deserves it, and then I'll just do easy trots. Nothing too insane. And then probably for the next year, I'm going to sign. I've got 2 races in sight already, just the Busso half, and that's just going to be a fun run because I love that event. And then I will be doing the MRU Market River Ultra as a team of 5 ladies for next year. So that's exciting. Going to see what we can do out there on the course. But yeah, other than that, I've got nothing in mind. I think I'll probably, if I do it back in a training block, I'll be doing a short and sweet. Let's get my 5K under 20 minutes. None of this marathon training, thank you. I do not want to do a marathon block anytime soon. How about yourself?
So I think I said this at the Gold Coast training series. I hate marathons. So after achieving the sub 3, I think I'm good. I have no ambitions of running a marathon again, or racing a marathon anytime soon. So for over the summer, I've signed up for track. So we'll see how my hamstrings and my body goes running an 800 meters for the first time in spikes. And then in the new year, I've got Herdies. So what a way to train for Herdies than a summer of speed on the track. So I think 5k PB is also my plan over the summer. And then Herdies next year, and then we'll see where my running goes there. But no marathons anytime soon. All right, well we've gone for too long, so let's wrap it up here. Narrischka, obviously a pleasure. to speak to you on the pod. I know we've been speaking for the past week or so. Obviously, again, reiterate that, Chris and I are huge fans of you. You are someone that epitomizes what is awesome about the WA running community. So we appreciate having you on the pod. Thanks for joining me on the WA Running Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Fingers crossed we pulled it together there, Vicky, and they managed to get back together tomorrow morning and record. But that's awesome stuff from everyone there over at Melbourne Marathon Festival. Now, my battery on my laptop is running desperately low, Vicky, so I'm going to say that we've got about 3 minutes to record here. So what I might do is quickly say that we've got upcoming events on the 17th of October, the Pemby Trail Fest. We've got the Athletics West Summer Season starting the same date. We've got the John Gilmore Track Race on the 24th of October, and then we've got the Perth Duathlon and Running Works Festival on the 26th of October. So a few events coming up there in the next month. Vicky, I think you've got a few verbalizations here. I'll let you. I think we might have gone through Dan buying the coffees already, but perhaps this other one that we've got here about Jack Daniels is a good one to give a shout out to.
I was actually going to save it for a future week because I feel like we've gone for an hour and 21 minutes so far.
All right. Well, then this is the cue, Simon. Cut this part of the episode. All right. Now, I wanted to give a few quick shout outs for the Weapons of Warp this week. Actually, before I do, how good was our live show last week, Vicky?
That was absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. I loved it. I thought that all the guys were brilliant, and you did a great job, Chris, of hosting. It was a great turnout. I hope we get to do another one soon.
Yeah, me too. I think, massively grateful to Raf and Sam for hosting us, and Raf obviously giving his time to talk through all things mindset. It was a good showing. I think there are going to be opportunities to do it again. So if anybody did miss out, we'd absolutely love to have you come along to the next one. Weapons of Warp this week. I did see Will McAlinden, who's a Perth expat. He runs for UWA Athletics and the Perth Distance Project under Tony Chamberlain here. But he's over in Leeds, presumably studying abroad. He recorded a Strava swim this week, which actually was him drinking a pint for a total of 6.6 seconds. So that's impressive timing. I guess we'll see you at the beer mile when you're back in Perth, Will. Bryan Bourke, who I think you and Simon talked about on your Sydney Marathon recap. Bryan I think he's a Wolf, if I'm not mistaken. He's a friend of the show, and he was at the live show last week, and he's basically been a day one supporter. So it seems like Bryan is now an ambassador for Jägermeister after he taunted us with a flat lay, which included a travel-sized bottle of Jaeger for Sydney. But now it seems like he's got a box full of Jägermeister products, including socks and sunglasses. So that's amazing stuff. Bryan, looking forward to seeing you kitted up in that. Another great friend of the show, Brian Lip. So it's the tale of two Bryans tonight. I think he might have broken the world record for the most time spent at a marathon expo, doing a solid 8-hour stint from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. on Friday for the Chicago Marathon. Have fun out there. I'm sure he's out there running right now if he's not already finished. Good stuff, Bryan. It's always interesting to see your updates on socials. And then finally, Renee Ioppolo with another weapon nomination. I think we nominated her a few weeks back ahead of Sydney for all of her hard work in the hills. But this time she's nominated for gaslighting her husband into running a half marathon in Rome. So it looks like she signed him up without his knowledge. And if I pulled that stunt, I'm sure that I'd come home from work one day and my children and my wife wouldn't be here. So all the best with that Renee. Look, in all seriousness, though, that Rome marathon does look pretty neat. It's got a decent course starting at the Circus Maximus and finishing at the Coliseum. So, I'm sure that your husband won't be too pissed off with you in the end.
I don't think so either. I think awesome location for a marathon. Yeah, brilliant.
Alrighty, that's us, Vicky. I reckon I think we've done a really good job to push out 1 hour and 25 minutes of content here on a Sunday night. I know we talked about getting out of here early and trying to make an evening of it, but unfortunately, here we are.
Yeah, I'm going to go finish my dinner now. But yeah, I'm glad we did it tonight because I feel like it was. I feel I came back from the marathon and I was the Perth Running Festival wasn't just a marathon, and felt so super inspired by everyone I saw out there on the course, and some of the people we've called out, some of the people we haven't called out, but we saw you and we think you're all awesome. And I just, I was like, oh, wish I was running. After saying absolutely not running this marathon. So yeah, I think great day for Perth running. Well done to everyone who had runs, good, bad or otherwise. You still got out there and did it and finished it. Maybe we'll wrap it up there.
Yep, spot on. Finally, if anyone wants to get in touch with us, you can find us at WA Running Pod on Instagram. Our email is warunningpodcast@gmail.com and our Strava group is Warp. We'll see you all next week on the WA Running Podcast.
Thanks, guys.
And then you have to ask yourself, at 35 kilometres, are you prepared? Let's fucking go! At 40 kilometres, this is it! This is the end! Prepare to end yourself! And then at the finish line, you are we've done it! We have done it!